Gymshark didn't start with a massive collection. They didn't start with the perfect cut and sew range. They didn't succeed because of their seamless items. What they did was they created one core stringer and they found the market at the right time. They created the right product for the right customer at the right time. And the lesson here for activewear brands isn't to just go for simplicity. It's to be specific, to pick the right product for the right customer at the right time. And that's what we can learn from Gymshark, is to be intentional. So how can you as a startup activewear brand be intentional to create products that are going to be in demand, that are also going to be unique because from a executional standpoint, you're going to understand why you're doing what you're doing, so you're going to be able to communicate your products effectively. You're going to be able to market them effectively, price them effectively, and make that connection with your customer. Because I see so many activewear brands, their approach is to either look at what everyone else is doing and to try to duplicate that, or simply to try to overcomplicate a hero product, which ends up skyrocketing their development and their production costs, and doesn't really tap into the functional and realistic needs of the customer. So without further ado, my name is Shadi. I'm the co-founder and the creative director of FittDesign. And over the last 10 years, we've helped thousands of activewear brands go from an idea to a physical product and a full-fledged activewear brand. Number one is that Gymshark knew how to create a product that was simple, but also a product that was aimed at a very, very clear customer. When Gymshark came out with their first screen-printed stringer, they were tapping into a bodybuilding era where you had a lot of creators that were creating online content through Instagram, through YouTube, through a lot of the platforms that were up and coming. And they tapped into this very specific customer that was not only watching their favorite bodybuilders create content within that niche, but also wanting to partake and create their own content. A lot of the early Gymshark athletes were actually people that had first started creating content for them and then became affiliated with the brand over time. Well-known examples of this could be Christian Guzman, and ultimately it is a clear example of a moment in time in which there's a change in how people are working out, how they're sharing their workouts, and what the aesthetic of someone who works out looks like. You can almost tell what that early 2010s visual sort of bodybuilding legion or that aesthetic looks like, and that's the product that they created. They created the product to cater towards that market, and it was very, very simple. An open cut stringer with a deeply cut chest line and an open back and deep cut armholes to be able to almost expose as much of the body as possible, but still allow bodybuilders to film, to shoot at the gym, and to actually work out. And what they did was they put the brand front and center. Those really large, blocky Gymshark letters that pushed the brand out there and made it very, very visible. So we went from a purely training-focused gym aesthetic and gym environment to a much more visual and aesthetic-focused gym environment. And this product was the core product at the time. Whereas right now, maybe we're in a much more functional and performative or performance-oriented gym era. In the past, it was much more about the visuals and the aesthetics. So this is why you had the open stringer with the longer look, with the more tapered fit, as well as that large blocky branding. They didn't try to be luxury activewear. They didn't try to be overly functional. They didn't try to have the most premium fabrics. They just tapped into the right customer at the right time with the right product. Number two is that Gymshark didn't invent the bodybuilding culture. They entered into it. To get back to the era of fitness, which Gymshark entered into, it was a mix of social media through Instagram, through YouTube, through creators sharing their fitness journeys on these different platforms. And where the fitness journey became a much more sort of semi-performative thing, where you would go and you would do your days of eating, you would do your if it fits your macros, you would do your full bodybuilding vlogs. The product became a prop within those categories. So they actually tapped into something that was already brewing. They didn't create the era of Instagram fitness and YouTube fitness. They simply saw where the world was heading, how people were consuming, and they aligned their marketing efforts, which is today what we call affiliate or influencer marketing. Back then it was just Gymshark sharing their product with creators that resonated with the vibe and the aesthetic of the brand at the time. That's why you see a lot of early Gymshark ambassadors, people that maybe at this stage you might not know, you might not even recognize as they moved on to different things. People like Matt Ogus, like Chris Lovato. These are sort of the OGs of what we consider to be the YouTube creator space, and they were very much able to tap into that connection that these creators had with their audience and create products for them. So this is a clear example of how they were not just simply creating a culture that didn't exist and forcing it. They were looking at what culture already existed and creating the right products for it. So in your niche, you must look at what are the customers that I want to target. What are they doing? What are they saying online? Where do they spend their time? What kind of products, what kind of conversations are they having? And how can I create a product that blends in seamlessly into those conversations? That's how you walk into an existing culture and benefiting from that. Number 3 is that the stringer that they created wasn't a random product. It solved a visual need at the time, which was a functional need. Because we spoke about these creators creating content and that content being consumed on digital media platforms like YouTube and Instagram, the idea of the product was, how do I allow my bodybuilding athletes to show off their physiques, which at the time was the primary method and means by which these people actually garnered followers. If you had a great physique, if you had a great regimen, people were naturally going to be drawn to that. So the stringer was a way for these creators to show off their physiques, and at the same time, with the clear, loud branding, you could show off the brand. This is why the synergy there was phenomenal, and they played into that perfectly with the initial product. Again, the deep cut neckline, the open back, the deep cut armholes that allowed you to show as much of your physique as possible, but still work out in a public gym. This made sense for what the customer was watching at the time, and then it made them aspire for those products. Everyone wanted to have the stringer that made them look like Jeff's side, even though they might not have been as large and as built as Jeff's side. This is, again, the subconscious connection that you make with the brand because of who's wearing it and what you aspire to be. Number 4 is that Gymshark actually used and integrated with the creators that were creating content around the Gymshark brand, not only because of a marketing stunt or because of the ability to create content, but simply because those were the creators that were also the ideal customer avatar. It's not going to come as any surprise that pretty much for the first 2 or 3 years of Gymshark's history, a lot of the athletes that were building and promoting Gymshark product were more or less not heavily compensated. If so, they were compensated in a very, very menial way compared to what you would compare today. We're talking things like just simple product, shout outs, just a connection between the brand and the audience. And you might ask yourself, okay, I've tried influencer marketing and I know that to get someone within the range of what Gymshark was getting, you'd have to pay, thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars. We have to understand at the time that influencer marketing wasn't what it is today. And at the same time, Gymshark was one of a kind to come into the space and create product that no one else had. Creators were just happy to have the product and to wear the product and to rep the product because it really matched their identity and their vision. The creators that we're creating were also the ideal customer. So if you're approaching someone with a product that they've been looking for that speaks to their core and no one else can give it to them, this is why we saw Gymshark rise so fast and really be able to tap into that creator economy at the time, which to this day we know as influencer marketing. This is the absolute genius of Gymshark's early influencer marketing, is that not only did the creators naturally gravitate towards the product that Gymshark was selling, but because they naturally gravitated, they were wearing it even outside of what we would consider a sponsored setting. They would wear it in the gym, outside of the gym. They would rave about it in a very authentic way. And the creator would then connect with the audience. So there was this trilateral connection between the customer, the creator, and the product, which had perfect synergy. Honestly, a synergy to almost this day I haven't seen to be able to be remanufactured in a natural way. Number 5 is Gymshark's meteoric use of body power and expos, physical expos. which are these exhibitions that they would attend. They would set up booths and they would promote the brand, they would give out free product, and they would just allow the creators that they were sponsoring to interact and engage with the audience. And those early use of those expos provided the world with real world proof of Gymshark's existence and its success. And online growth is essential, it's important, but it's how you take that growth offline that really matters. This is why you see a lot of the brands that are at the $20 to $50 million mark today, they are starting to dabble into the world of physical retail. Back then, you didn't have to do that. All you had to do was set up an expo or a booth at a Body Power, and that gave you as much offline presence as you needed. This is what essential early brands need. They need proof that the brand is legit, that it exists beyond the walls or the walled garden of the internet. And this is why, because you could have the best reviews, you could have the best sales records, but at the end of the day, if people don't know you on the street, that is where the real test of reputation comes. At the end of the day, everyone knows what Nike is, Adidas is, Puma is, but there's a lot of activewear brands that are doing $1 million to $5 million a year that no one would have heard of, even in their primary markets. That's the power of physical online as well as physical retail or physical presences like Gymshark, Athlete, and a lot of the early activewear brands that have succeeded to this day were doing. Number 6 is that Gymshark also expanded their product range only after their core customer understood and immediately connected with the brand. Because what a lot of brands will do is when they've achieved a certain level of success, maybe on collection 1, 2, 3, 4, they no longer are satisfied with the growth that they're getting from those products, and they think that just adding more products in different categories with a different customer connection is the way for continued growth. And Gymshark only decided to start to expand their range into different product categories when they had undoubtable proof that the core customer understood what the brand stands for. And even Gymshark and a lot of the brands, they don't do this perfectly. You almost see them consistently teetering between different, either they push too far into expansion or they stick too close to their laurels. But Gymshark did a very good job of sticking within the realm of what they knew best and expanding. Going for men's first and then expanding into women's items, and then going for your performance items and then considering to expand into lifestyle items. But at the end of the day, to this day, Gymshark hasn't actively gotten into a wide range of shoes, although they do bring out special edition products, but it isn't a consistent part of their catalog. They are not heavy into backpacks and accessories, although they have their core gym bags. This is a testament of the fact that Gymshark is a gymwear brand that focuses on gym. So what is the real lesson here that we can learn as startup founders? Is that it's not simply about making a screen printed t-shirt and applying low effort. Gymshark was able to make, again, the right product for the right customer at the right time. They identified the niche that they were in. They saw how it was changing and how people were communicating and engaging with each other, and they made a product that fit into that world perfectly. For you, it can be a hybrid training short for high rocks athletes, or it could be a modest running top for people that want to work out and they want to feel great, or it can be a bio-based or a sustainable blend fabric for more eco-conscious consumers that want to partake in yoga or Pilates. There's a wide variety of different ways that you can find the right customer at the right time, but it just comes down to specificity. And if you guys want to know how you can apply that same level of specificity in your next collection to create products that customers love, that allow you to stand out in the market and carve a name for yourself, you can check the link in the description to apply to work with us one-on-one. And within 5 minutes, we'll send through a full-fledged production roadmap on how we can help you take your idea and turn it into a physical product and a sample in under 30 days. Guys, I say this from the very bottom of my heart. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of FittDesign TV. Until next week's episode, stay awesome.